Hello everyone, my name is Christine and I help people navigate through difficult life transition, transformation and trauma healing from survival mode to a soul-aligned embodied life. And today I wanted to talk a bit more about how to even get into this all, how to even start. Because in the beginning it's all really overwhelming and you don't know anything, you don't know how to start, and it's all confusing, and there's so many sources out there and different and people and modalities, and they all say, oh, this and that. And so I already made a video about starting your own connection, ideally every day, every morning. Right after getting up, you establish the vertical connection, you tune into your own heart, soul, and grounding connection to Mother Earth. And then you will, when you start doing that quite regularly, you will become better and better in feeling what is good for you and what you need, and not what other people tell you that you need. How to even start, or what happens when you start getting onto that path of doing inner work, of trauma healing, all of that. So for me, it started, and I didn't even know, I was completely not aware how beneficial this would be for later, for starting any kind of healing work. Because first I didn't plan to, that was not my plan at all. I just left my life behind almost 14 and a half years ago now. And I started traveling, and I backpacked through Southeast Asia. And that was a life-changing trip, 6 months. And then I moved to Thailand. And I wanted to fulfill my dream of becoming a scuba dive instructor. And yes, there were I was still very caught up in my addictive patterns, in the drinking and the smoking and the men and all of that. But what happened kind of automatically was that, and mind you, that was end of 2011, beginning of 2012, I'm not sure if anyone had a smartphone back then. I don't know, I did not have a smartphone. There was not Wi-Fi everywhere. I just had a little weird notebook that didn't really work, and then I had to go to the internet cafe to upload my photos on Facebook. And before I started traveling, I was just a journalist, an editorial journalist, but just for teenage magazines and girls magazines. But I somehow convinced myself I have to stay up to date. So I read the mainstream news every day online, and then I didn't really watch them, but I watched a lot of TV. I watched a lot of crappy stuff on TV. That was part, of course, of my numbing, distracting patterns that I didn't have to feel what was inside of me. And of course, at that time, I didn't know how very, very detrimental that is when you consume a lot of information, let's say, from the mainstream media, but also just watching anything. You just consume. And I'm not getting into the whole discussion now about mainstream media and the truth or validity of what they say. I have my own opinion about that. And whatever you believe about that, but it is not very high vibrational energy, let's put it like that. And in any case, it's like bombarding, and it's very, very fear-based, because that sells, of course. So it is very, very, very detrimental, let's say, for people in general, but especially when you start to do any kind of healing work. So I would absolutely recommend to, if you can, stop. Just stop consuming any kind of mainstream media, of news. And I don't know if anyone still watches TV nowadays. Like, just either stop or drastically reduce that. I'm not talking about stopping everything and anything. I still watch a lot of series. That's part of my, now self-soothing stuff. I used it for numbing and distracting. And I'm not saying you need to stop everything now and be super perfect. And no, but just be mindful of what you consume and how much. And any kind of mainstream stuff, mainstream media, mainstream news, I would very strongly recommend you stop doing that. Because when I started my traveling and stuff, all of a sudden I was completely detoxed, deprogrammed from all of that without even knowing. And I had so much fun. Like, I was in exotic, beautiful places. I went scuba diving. I met people from all over the world. There was so much interesting, exciting stuff happening. So I didn't feel the need to inform myself what's going on in the world. And to be honest, if that's why you do it, because you think you need to be informed what's going on in the world, well, you don't. You really, really don't. You will know when something super crazy important happens because people will tell you. I mean, even I've been away from that for like over a decade, and even I sort of start to hear things when they are really, really important. So you don't need to stay informed, let alone just maybe become open to the idea that whatever they tell you might just not be exactly how it really is. So detox from mainstream media, detox from mainstream news is the first. The second is, I mean, that was not really the case for me back then, and I'm totally not active on social media at all. Back then I was on Facebook, but that's just my generation. That was 2011, 2012, and I put up a lot of photos on Facebook, like, oh, look at me, I'm so cool, I have this super amazing life now, I'm so interesting, and my life is so exciting. So that is, of course, a part of everyone's journey, I guess, but if you consume a lot of social media and either you look at other people's stuff or you put up a lot yourself, but like, there's the real danger of, and even subconsciously, comparing yourself to others. You look at other people's lives and photos and stories and feeds and reels and you think, oh my God, they have such a crazy, interesting life, and look at me. And then you compare yourself and you feel bad and you feel boring. And keep in mind, they curate that. They will not tell you when they are completely, I don't know, bored or lost, and they cry themselves to sleep when whatever, you know, they're not going to put that online. There's a lot of masks, inauthenticity, shiny surfaces. So get out of the comparing trap. Yeah, just keep in mind that people might not be completely genuine on social media, and it also distracts you from your work, what really matters, and that is your own inner healing work. What other people do and how, and millions of pictures of their food or whatever places they travel to, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for you. The only thing that matters is your path, your life, your healing. So, and then the third thing, this is important. I talked a lot about what addictive behaviors I had. If you have a lot of unhealed trauma, you will have the one or other thing, maybe more than one. There's alcohol, there are drugs. You can be addicted to social media, of course, and binge watching, or shopping, food, gaming or gambling, sex, smoking. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we can do to numb ourselves. And it's kind of impossible to just stop from one day to the next unless you are already on that path, on that process, and it starts to happen naturally or organically. Like, for example, when I went to India, that was 3 years after my first trip in Southeast Asia, and I started to embark on that healing journey. And India is kind of an interesting place for that and very conducive for just not drinking. And so I stopped smoking, drinking, and eating meat my first 2 weeks, I think, or the third week or something. And that was that. I didn't have to force myself. It just happened. It just fell away organically. And when you start to do your inner work, you start to clean things up, you raise your vibrations, then things will naturally fall away that are just not aligned anymore. And you don't have to force yourself so much. But yeah, just intend to look at your addictive behaviors, your numbing habits, and maybe, yeah, just observe yourself. Which ones do you have? How much do you do them? How often? How intense? And maybe have the intention to start reducing it, and at some point let them just fall away. I mean, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to become perfect. I still watch a lot of series. I'm still kind of sugar addicted. I reduced it a little, but it's very hard for me. I mean, I had dessert every day. I had cake every day. It's hard for me to not eat sugar, you know? And every now and then I have a beer or something. And that's okay. You don't have to, unless you're full-on alcoholic and you want to become sober, then not. But you don't have to become absolutely perfect. That's not the point, and that's not the goal. So of course, just anything that is just completely like over the top, toxic, detrimental, super unhealthy, just look at that and have the intention to start reducing it and to just let it fall away. More than anything, stop lying to yourself. So what I mean with that is we all have these traits or habits or emotions or patterns in our life that we just do not want to look at. We don't want to admit it to ourselves. And we're dishonest to ourselves and others. There might be taboo topics. You know, there might be things maybe in your life that happened to you or that you have done that cause a lot of shame or guilt or fear or anger or sadness or grief or remorse or regret or whatever, and you just don't want to look at it, and that's very understandable. But anything that is a taboo, that you basically lock away in the deepest room of your basement and you shut the door and you nail it shut and you abandon it forever, that will fester and it will bleed into your life. And let's just say that's not good. The goal is to start bringing light into these shadow parts of yourself and your life. It's also called shadow work. And again, it's not like you have to rip everything open like straight away. It happens in layers and the process takes time. But just have the intention to start to be really honest with yourself. And that you start to look at it. And that is something that takes courage, honesty, and integrity. And you can be very, very, very proud of yourself when you decide that, when you decide to start doing that, and when you decide to start looking at all of these things that previously you didn't want to look at. And a big one is take responsibility for everything in your life. And this sounds, if something really bad happened to you, if had a lot of abuse maybe in your childhood, traumatic stuff happening to you, terrible things that people have done to you. I know that it sounds really a bit strong when I say that, but what I mean with it is, as long as we blame others for what happened to us, and as long as we blame God or the universe or whatever, or even think that somehow God is punishing us, or life just is shit and all this shit happens to me. The problem with that is it keeps us in victim mode, in a victim consciousness, and that is very, very disempowering. And it keeps us passive. It's like, oh, I can't do anything about it. But you can. You absolutely can. If you become open to the idea that on some level, you might have chosen all of this. And on some level, you might have created everything in your life so far. I'm not condoning any abusive behavior, anything bad that ever happened to you, any kind of abandonment, abuse, betrayal. This is something, on the contrary, this is something that is probably the most important part of any kind of healing work, inner work, that all of this needs to be acknowledged. It needs to be felt fully. It needs to be worked through. And for example, anger and rage about what happened and what people done to you, that is absolutely a super important part of the process. This is what annoys me so much in some so-called love and light spiritual communities, when they just gloss over anything so-called negative with their toxic positivity and their love and light, and even more when it's all about forgiveness. And there is a thing called premature forgiveness, and that is you just rush into forgiving what this and that person, what they've done to you, without having done that inner work of feeling all of that, feeling the rage, the anger, the disappointment, the hurt, the pain. And then way down the road, the forgiveness can come, and very, very often comes naturally. But if you just choose to forgive them before you've done any of the work, then it's just very, very, very detrimental, because it kind of makes it impossible for you to let these emotions rise and to admit them to yourself and to feel them and to have compassion for yourself. It almost gives you the feeling that you have to be ashamed to have these so-called negative emotions in the first place. And that's the toxic positivity, love and light crap. I'm sorry, but that's just not helpful at all. So forgiveness is important, yes. And you can always, if you want to, you don't have to, but like already in the beginning or at some point, you can choose to be willing to start the process of forgiveness. Because it is a process. It doesn't happen from one second to the next. It takes time. It takes a lot of time, depending on what happened. But this is okay. This you can do, but you don't have to. And it's much more important to work through all of these emotions and feel them. But of course, forgiveness is a beautiful thing. And the more you open your heart, and the more love and compassion you have for yourself, the more love and compassion you will have with other people, and you will start to understand why they did the things they did. Because they were hurt themselves, maybe as a child. Maybe they were traumatized, neglected, abused, betrayed, abandoned, hurt. And you start to understand it has nothing to do with you in that sense. They were just acting out and passing on what they've experienced. But that comes way down the line. You don't have to start with that. Let's just put it like that. There are things like karmic relationships, karmic vows. I already mentioned it. There are also ancestral or intergenerational trauma and patterns, like burden that is in your soul and subconscious level that you're not aware of it, but they're there. And they can also attract certain situations, circumstances, and people in your lives according to these resonances. And in general, all of these things will create a certain heavy frequency within ourselves. And as within, so without, meaning you have, without knowing, of course, you have this heaviness inside of you, these lower vibrations of these emotions, of these patterns, of these limiting beliefs about yourself and about life, and they broadcast that out into the world. And again, you're not aware of it, but that's exactly what happens. That's just how the universe works. There are universal laws of for example, I mean, you probably heard about the law of attraction, but like as within, so without. There are many more, but for just keeping this a bit shorter, you broadcast that out into the world, and boom, you will attract a very similar frequency within someone else or something, a place, a person, a relationship, a job, whatever it is. And then of course the very human thing is like, oh, see, it happened to me again. This shit keeps happening to me. I don't understand. Why is life so cruel? And that's again the victim consciousness. And it's really human. It's very, very human. I've been there a million times, even after knowing all of this. It's just very normal and very human. But at some point, maybe just catch yourself when you're stuck in that mindset and in that kind of, in the victim consciousness, and catch yourself and become open to the idea that, yes, maybe on some level I created it. And it needs to be mentioned, of course, that I'm not condoning any terrible behavior, anything that was done to you by others, like real serious stuff, terrible abuse, or I'm not saying it's okay, and I'm not saying that's the last thing I'm saying, that it's somehow your fault. Taking responsibility doesn't mean that it's somehow your fault. And it does not absolve the other person from what they've done. That's their karma and that's their responsibility. But it's your responsibility how you react and what you do with it, because things already happened. So that can't be undone. But you can, from this moment onwards, you can decide to change. You can decide to heal. You can decide to take responsibility, to own it all, to say, yes, all of this shit happened. And it makes me feel really, really, really bad. And I have all of these habits now and all of these toxic behaviors and relationships and whatever. But it's okay. It's human. It's absolutely human. I mean, we all have at some point a fucking mess and chaos, and that is our lives. But what really matters is what we do with it. So if you become open to that idea, and I'm not saying you have to believe in karma or in past lives or anything like that, but if you become open to that idea that there are levels that your conscious mind is not aware of, and that on these levels certain things were chosen or were created, and now they're just running on autopilot, then you get your power back, because then you can choose differently. And what was once created, you can uncreate it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's empowering, not disempowering. Being stuck in victim mode is disempowering. It is very empowering to become open to that idea that, yes, on some level I created it, so I can now choose differently. And that gives you all your agency back. all your power back. Even if you don't really know exactly how to start or what to do and how it's going to be, that doesn't matter. It will come, because when you start, like, intention matters. And when you make these good decisions for yourself, the universe will then support you. It will send you all the support you need. It will send you new helpful people, situations, places, events, material information that will help you to walk that path. It doesn't have to be all now. Don't worry about that. The only thing that matters now is to make that choice yourself. To decide, yes, I might have created all of this, I might have chosen this, whether it's on a soul level, whether it's on an unconscious level, whether it's had whatever from my childhood, or maybe it's a karmic thing. That doesn't matter. But then I can change things from now on. I take responsibility. I take responsibility for my life, and I take responsibility for my healing process. And that will already change everything for the better, and things will start to align. And the universe will send you support. I can promise you that. What needs to be said is there is no quick fix. This will not happen super quickly. I'm sorry, this will not take a few weeks and you're done, depending on how much unhealed trauma you have and whatever happened in your life, how old you are now, and all of these things, and how your life habits, circumstances are now. There is just no quick fix. It might take years, it might take decades. For me, it took already over a decade, and I've done it full time. And don't fall into the same trap that I fell into, which was I thought I have to heal myself perfectly. I have to fix myself perfectly. And then I can have a good life. Then I can do my purpose. Then I can have whatever. Then I can be happy. Then I can attract abundance and success and whatnot. Like, no, it just happens alongside your life, which is good because it means you can enjoy your life while you're doing the healing work. It doesn't have to be first this and then that. And to be honest, I don't think we're ever done. I don't think there is a perfectly healed. Yes, there is a shift from living in, let's say, survival mode, stuck in trauma response, stuck in dysregulation, in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, shifting into homeostasis, regulation, peace from within as baseline. And then that doesn't mean that you're like perfect or anything, but from then on out, life will really, really, really flow. But even if that is not the case, even if there's still layers of some, deeper trauma patterns or pre-verbal trauma or anything like that, it doesn't mean that you have to, that you cannot enjoy life. Like, I enjoyed, it was really, really difficult, but I also enjoyed the life I had. I enjoyed the years of traveling, of adventure, freedom, of the super crazy stuff, like all the exotic places I went to and all the crazy things I've done. And it was intense. There was a lot of intensity. There was a lot of survival. It was hard, but it was also fun, It doesn't have to be one or the other. Just try to live your life and enjoy your life and let goodness meet you. Practice receiving also. Practice opening up to receiving kindness from others and benevolence and goodness, because we are very, very prone to not let that in, So, yeah. That's just all I want to say for today. I think it's just a process, and sometimes it's a lifelong process. We're never done. That's just part of being human. That's just life, and that's okay. So taking responsibility means that on some level that you chose these experiences, you chose these people, relationships, circumstances of your life to experience certain things and to resolve them and to heal them and to learn certain lessons. So for example, on the soul level, you might have some karmic unresolved patterns, cycles with other souls, with other people. So you choose to meet again, and this time you will do better. This time you will resolve it. This time you will make peace. And sometimes that works and sometimes it really doesn't. So then there are, of course, things like, and I'm not getting into that in this video, but there are things like soul contracts, there are karmic relationships, there are karmic vows. There are lessons that your soul wants to learn in this lifetime. So for example, if one of them is like, I want to learn how to find love within myself. So everyone else will abandon me, will leave me, will hurt me. So I cannot find love outside of myself, starting even maybe with your parents. And that makes it really, really hard. Like I had that, for example, like if you don't experience love, no one loves you unconditionally or even like half semi-unconditional or not at all. And then you will look for love in everything and everyone, but within yourself because you were not given. You don't know how. And then you will try to find love in all the wrong places. And that can never work. And you will then experience abandonment after abandonment, heartbreak, loss. And it will be very difficult to find that love within yourself. But it's not impossible. And I know what I'm talking about. So that could be one of the lessons that your soul chose to learn in this lifetime. And then you attract the perfect people for that. It could also mean that you created this without knowing on a subconscious or unconscious level. Because, for example, the things that happen in our childhood, the trauma we experienced, we develop then trauma responses. And I mean, I'm not getting into the whole biology of it, like the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system and being stuck in fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, trauma response and all of that. Of course, that is on a somatic level, on a physical level. But let's just say we develop a lot of coping mechanisms, defense mechanisms, survival strategies, masks, personas, subpersonalities, that all have the purpose of just surviving it and of self-protection. And that kind of makes sense when we are 5 years old, but not when we're 50. So we still carry these patterns into adulthood when they're not serving us anymore and they're on autopilot and we're not aware of it. And they impact our lives, our relationships, all areas of our lives really negatively until we become aware of them. Until we start to change them, until we start to do the healing work. And that, by the way, also takes time. These are layers and layers and layers and layers. It took me so many years because there were so many layers. And that's okay. The only important thing now is just choose to start. Choose to start. Choose to take responsibility. Choose to own everything in your life. You can write it down on an inventory. You can see where you are. You can just be very, very honest with yourself. Like, okay, this and this is not so good and this is happening and I want to change it. I take responsibility and I'm willing to do the work. And then the universe will start aligning everything and will start sending you support. That's all I want to say for today. I hope it was helpful. You can, if you like, you can write me comments where you are on your path. Share whatever you want to share. And yeah, I hope it was helpful. And I want to really commend you. I give you a hug in spirit, in mind, that you are really brave for even watching this. You are very, very brave for considering this, embarking on this path, on this journey. And I cannot promise you it will always be easy. I cannot promise you it will be quick, but I can promise you it will change your life for the better. It has to. It did for me. And I had a lot of trauma and a lot of darkness to heal. So yeah, that's all for today. I wish you a great day, and I wish you all the best for your healing process. Much love. Bye-bye.